evening, everyone. I'm Shivani Gupta. In another big exclusive, CNN News 18 has spoken to Sher Mohammad Stanikzai, one of the top political leaders in the Taliban, now in control of Afghanistan. Quite like last week, Taliban continues to make the right noises. It says it will not be a terror safe haven and wants friendly relations with India. But the actions on ground, the reality on ground, doesn't always match what the Taliban says. Already we are getting reports of those Afghans who had worked with NATO forces, for example, being targeted, something the Taliban said will not happen. So can India really trust the Taliban? Former Chief of RAW, the Indian Foreign Intelligence Service, Vikram Sood, is joining us for an exclusive conversation on that big question. And I'm also joined by our other guests, Lieutenant General KG Singh, former General Officer, Commanding-in-Chief of Western Command, Vivek Karju, former MEA Secretary, Brahma Chaleni, Strategic Affairs and author. All will be joining us in just a bit. But first up, let's listen into what Sher Mohammad Stanikzai had told CNN News 18.
Foreign policy is like to have good relation with our all neighbors and all the countries of the region and as a whole with the whole world. There was no threat throughout the history from Afghanistan to our neighbors, including India, and it will not happen at all. There is no doubt there is long dispute, political dispute and geographical dispute between India and Pakistan. We hope these two countries should not use Afghanistan in their internal fighting which they have. This is our duty. We will not allow anyone to use the Afghan side against any countries of the world. There is no requirement to evacuate them. Afghanistan is their homeland, their country, so they can live in Afghanistan peacefully. There will be no threat, no harm to their life, personal life. They can live as they were living before. And we hope that those other 6 Hindus which were in Afghanistan and they migrated for the last 20 years because of that previous regime to India, we hope that we should soon see them in Afghanistan should they come back. We hope that in future it should be completed. We will invite India to come and start again and complete those projects.
First up, let me go across to Vikram Sood, former RAW chief. Now, the Taliban continues to maintain that it wants friendly relationship with India. How trustworthy do you think they are? Can India really trust what they're saying?
Well, there are two things in this kind of a situation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Two things in this kind of a situation. States have to deal with states, governments have to deal with governments, especially in the neighborhood. Now here, the Taliban is making the appropriate noises, shall we say, but their track record, as far as we are concerned, is not very good. So I would imagine we would want to have some better proof than just making statements and saying we will do well, whereas you either treat the Indians badly or you harass the Hindus or the Sikhs. Then what is new? In any case, I think it is early days. These are the noises they have to make, perhaps under guidance from their mentors, that you have to make all the polite statements and get on with the business otherwise. And I don't see any change on the ground as far as their own people are concerned. I think yesterday or the day before they killed off a poet or a singer. And the treatment of women is no different, except that they say, yes, you can be educated, but not in a co-ed. Well, that's a concession maybe. But beyond that, I don't see any reason for us to rush in. This is only 4 days, right? What is the point in jumping into it just now? I would wait.
Yeah. No, overall, many countries are employing a wait and watch. They also have said, interestingly, in that special conversation with CNN News 18, that they will not allow their land to be used for global terrorism, and certainly not in the neighborhood. But we've seen reports of how Masood Azhar, for example, has met the Talibani leadership. Today, Aminul Haq, who was a former security aide of Osama bin Laden, was seen back in the Nangarhar province. So when it comes to the concern of terrorism, what is your assessment?
Well, it depends on how you define terrorism. So then jihad is not terrorism. So where do we go from there? And if they're all getting together, I don't see any difference on the ground. I believe Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed chaps also turned up in Kabul a couple of days ago to join in the celebration. And I see no reason why this statement that they will not sponsor terror from their country. They'll say they're not sponsoring terrorism. Jihad is my fundamental right. Every Muslim has to practice jihad. So I'm only doing that.
So when it comes to the most basic motivations of these groups, regardless of what the Taliban says on the face, eventually you believe Afghanistan will become like a global safe haven for terrorists, and especially against India?
If the situation deteriorates, then it's anybody's game. You will have a whole lot of cottage industry, terrorism, good or bad, big or small, sprouting. But if it doesn't, then there are greater chances of some solidity. The other point is that things will not happen in Afghanistan the way the world wants it to, unless you take control of Pakistan.
Right.
Unless you stop and sanction Pakistan, nothing will happen. And Pakistan will not stop unless the price it has to pay is much higher. Right now, it doesn't have to pay any price. If you go by this document which I just got, have you seen this?
Yes.
Now, I don't know how the authenticity. It quotes the Government Accounting Agent Office of the United States government and also of the Cigar Group. Now, if that is, then this is a huge army. Who is going to benefit from that? The Afghans don't need that. They don't have the capacity to use all this. They will definitely go to Pakistan. If this figure is correct, it may be exaggeration, but the thought is there.
No, absolutely. Jim Banks, the Republican congressman who served as a Navy Reserve, has put out these figures. We've run them in the past too. And you know, the US has faced a lot of criticism, has been facing a lot of flack for even suggesting, for example, that the Taliban and the Haqqani are different and they are different entities altogether, when all evidence points to the contrary.
Well, this is an absurd statement to make. It also shows one of the reasons why the Americans lost. If you are going to not be able to say that they are together, they are part of the same group, and that one of them is controlled by Pakistan more than the others, then obviously you're creating a narrative that doesn't make sense. It's probably just self-satisfying for the domestic audience who's quite ignorant, I'm sure, about these nuances and differences. So I'm afraid that it doesn't. No one buys this theory here anyway.
Right. No, absolutely. In fact, the world is shocked that the US made these statements. But as you said, none of the situation will really improve unless you deal with the root cause, which is Pakistan. Given these statements that the US is making, it doesn't look like there's going to be any change in their tactic on how they deal with Pakistan at all.
Not at all. No, I don't get any confidence that there is any change. Even the West, by and large, they just want to get out and forget it. Then it becomes the problem of the locals, i.e. you and I and the others. And they move off. Maybe China moves in, maybe it doesn't move in. I don't know. But there is a vacant spot for them.
Right. And that, of course, is the big concern for India too. But according to you, what's the real threat as far as the Pakistan control of Afghanistan goes and various terror groups is concerned?
Look, it's like this. right now the Afghans don't have a means, experience, expertise to run governments. They can only do guerrilla warfare. Running a government is totally different. Will they import talent from Pakistan for this? Will Pakistanis come as the governors of provinces and so on and so forth and run the system? Can they run the system? Is the strategic depth for Pakistan going to be a deep hole? A country which is finding it difficult to run itself wants to run another one is not a not something that you can think can happen easily.
Right.
So it's not Pakistan may be feeling very elated at the moment, but I think in the long run there are going to be problems that they didn't want to face or didn't anticipate.
That's right. Several people believe that actually the snake that they have built in Afghanistan will end up eating them only. But do you believe that all of this rejoicing or elation that you refer to, that we're witnessing in Pakistan, do they really have that kind of control? They obviously want the Taliban or the Mujahideens to come to their aid and help them in Kashmir, for example.
Rejoicing is expected. They are not fighting in Afghanistan for Afghanistan's sake. They are fighting India in Afghanistan. For them, this is a major victory. So let them feel happy about it. Pouring terrorists into India, we've been through that before. We've been through the 90s. We've been through the first decade. We recently throughout. I think, given that, I think we are probably the Indian Army is probably the best equipped to handle counter-terror.
Right.
And they do it without drones. They do it without aircraft. They don't bomb from Guam or places like that. So our way of handling terrorists is much better because there are boots on the ground as well.
Right.
So I'm not so concerned about terror in Pakistan, Kashmir. Hoga. After some time, right now maybe not. It'll be too soon after victory in Kabul to have a celebration of this kind. People will ask questions.
Right.
They'll have to do something where it doesn't come back to them.
Right. Let me ask you, you've written last week that it's a very convenient narrative that these recent attacks in Kabul were planned and perpetrated by the ISIS-K. The US now, though, claims that it has conducted a counter-terrorism strike in the Nangarhar province. They've also blew up an explosive-laden vehicle. What do you think of this today? Do you believe that the ISIS was attacked behind the attack at Kabul airport?
No, I don't believe it. I don't see there is enough evidence. What is the evidence? Because I say so. That becomes evidence. In fact, what is the actual evidence for the bombing of the WTC, September 11th?
So many of us have also been, talking about this, that was there a hurry in declaring that ISIS-K was behind it? Even as, as you wrote, the bodies were being taken out at the Kabul airport. But my question is, why would the US buy into this narrative or promote it?
It's got to justify a superpower has just done a deal with the thug they wanted to kill, and now you want to justify that by these kinds of statements.
All right. Mr. Sood, let me finally ask you, given the situation that you've enumerated, the situation that India suspects, the Pakistani hand, the Haqqani network, the ISI designs, what should be India's strategy when it comes to dealing with Taliban or the overall situation in Afghanistan?
Very difficult to say what should be the strategy, but I think what the tactic has to be is to just put up a wall, metaphorically speaking. We're not going to be able to go and have action in Afghanistan. We don't have access. You just have to tighten all your systems here and be able to respond quickly and effectively. The other side should know it can happen.
And by the other side, you mean Pakistan, right? Right. I think
Yes,
yes, the less said, the better sometimes. All right, Vikram Sood, thanks a lot for joining us. Pleasure to have you on the show. Let me also bring in our other guests who are joining us. Lieutenant General KG Singh, former General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of Western Command, as I said. Vivek Kaju, former MEA Secretary. Brahmachalini, Strategic Affairs Thinker. Mr. Kaju, let me come to you. You heard what Vikram Sood has said, that, really there's no trusting the Taliban. What is your assessment of all the statements they make, including that they want friendly relationships with India, they want India to continue its developmental work in Afghanistan, and that minorities will be safe here, and it won't become a terror safe haven?
Look, I'm sorry I couldn't hear Vikram continuously. He was fading in and out, but
Right.
I think I got the gist of what he said. In the world of diplomacy, which I inhabited all my professional life, no one trusts anybody. It doesn't proceed on trust. It proceeds on verification. And therefore, I would never trust Taliban statements, just as I would not trust the statements of any government. I would like to see what is the action they are taking. That's my first point. The second, they are saying, we had Stanagzai clip that I heard. He said that minorities are safe. Now, we should pose to him a specific question. Those of us who were involved in Afghanistan, India's policy towards Afghanistan in the 1990s, can recall that in the 1990s, the Taliban issued a directive to Hindus and Sikhs that they should wear a yellow cloth on their clothes. It was almost like reminded people of the Nazis telling the Jews what they should wear. So I think we have to ask them if that kind of a policy of asking Hindus and Sikhs to be distinguished through their clothing will be adopted again. One Taliban person gave the excuse that this is to distinguish them so that they are not required to follow Muslim ways of dress. Otherwise, there can be problems. But in any case, it is discriminatory.
Right.
Now, all this kind of testing requires engagement. If you don't engage the Taliban, how do you test them? And I dare say, while the world was engaging them, we did not. And I discern, at least that's what I discerned from Vikram Sood, for whom I have comments for, and I have great respect for Vikram Sood, that there is still a reluctance to engage. Certain realities have been created on the ground in Afghanistan. Those realities are there. And I don't see any desire on the part of the international community to change those realities.
All right.
If that is the case, then we have to proceed and operate through these realities and navigate our Afghan policy.
Okay.
We
also
can't
said,
get emotional about it.
Absolutely. No,
We can't
Vikram,
keep cursing the great powers and say they followed what they think are their interests. We can agree or disagree whether they've defined their interests properly, whether they got out properly.
Right.
We can regret their actions. But the reality is that this is the situation on the ground in Afghanistan.
No, you're right. And Vikram Sood also said in that conversation that, governments have to deal with governments. So if Taliban is going to be the next government, we will have to, of course, do something. Lieutenant General KG Singh, let me bring you in here. My larger question to you is, Vikram Sood also said, for example, and many experts have said that, India is adept at dealing the threat that comes in from Afghanistan now, regardless of what the Taliban is saying. Do you believe that the situation in Afghanistan and Pakistan in extension could become the worst that we have ever seen?
See, let me take you back to Taliban 1.0. First time when Taliban came to power, and now there are significant changes. We have a LOC fence in place. That fence was not there earlier. We also have Rashtriya Rifles, which has been raised, deployed, and has proved its worth. We've also revoked Article 370. We have conducted elections for development councils. So ground reality is such that terrorism from outside has reduced, and it is largely now local terrorism. But we can't let our guard down. See, what happens is when there is euphoria, it gives a certain amount of flip to people who are fighting for this kind of a cause. Their recruitment increases, people get motivated. You can't rule out a lone wolf warrior attack in hinterland also. So it has got a potential of a cascading kind of a euphoria or motivation which builds in. We have to remain careful. But I will go along with the assessment of Vikram Sood on this issue, that while Pakistan is being euphoric currently, but sooner or later, as it is, there has been report that there was a clash between TTP cadres and Pakistan Army.
Yes.
And Pakistan is worried they have fenced that border. Durand line was never fenced. Durand line is a very notional kind of a line. Pashtuns don't respect it. And another problem which might take place, last time when Taliban was in power, the cases which were happening in Northwest Frontier Province, now called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, were taken that side. If you had a rape in, say, Peshawar, people preferred to take the case to Jalalabad and get it sorted out there. So Pakistan is going to also feel the impact, as it is in madrasas. Flags have come up.
Right.
Tehreek-e-Labaik Pak Rasool Allah is in great spirits. So I am also worried for Pakistan people, their population.
Yes.
As far as we are concerned, Indian Army is fairly in the know of it. We are prepared for it. We are prepared for all kind of eventualities. You've seen the airlift which was done by C-17 and C-130s.
Yes, our capabilities have also changed quite a bit since the 1990s. As you very rightly said, ground situation in Kashmir has also changed. Let me give the final word to Brahmachaleni also. You know, we know that Afghanistan situation can destabilize Pakistan also. Ultimately, the problem for India is that it's right next door to us. Whether Pakistan is destabilized also or not, whether it, is bitten by the snake that it has harbored in its backyard, as in the Taliban, that's still secondary for us. Our first concern is what's going to happen to the region. Your quick assessment on that, Brahmachaleni.
You're right. The US and its Western allies are located far from Afghanistan. But one clear loser from the terrorist capture of Afghanistan is India, whose security could come under siege from the Pakistan-China-Taliban coalition. Since last year, India has been locked in continuing military standoffs with China. But if India now faces a greater terrorist threat from across its western borders, it'll have less capacity to counter an expansionist China. And Afghanistan's fall will likely strengthen the anti-India axis between Pakistan and China. The worst choice for India and the other democratic powers would be to grant the Taliban recognition and respectability. The Taliban and their masters in Rawalpindi must be deterred, not emboldened.
But that doesn't seem to be happening,
that the Taliban remain internally preoccupied in Afghanistan, so that the Taliban and their sponsor Pakistan have little space to create trouble for India. A stable Taliban regime in Kabul is not in the interest of India's national security. And I believe that India should pursue a strategic disruption policy to keep Pakistan and Taliban bottled up. The strategic disruption policy, of course, will have covert components, and those components obviously cannot be discussed on national television. Engagement could potentially serve as a cover behind which India could pursue strategic disruption.
All right.
So engagement as a facade is okay, but without a strategic disruption policy, the China-Pakistan-Taliban nexus will cast a growing cloud over India's national security.
All right.
Unfortunately, the Biden administration is drawing specious distinctions between the Taliban Haqqani network and the ISIS-K so as to build a partnership with the Taliban regime. The CIA chief's secret visit to Kabul exactly a week ago was intended to strike a Faustian bargain with the Taliban.
And that's the horror reality that India is dealing with, unfortunately, that the Taliban has been legitimized for the end game right now, but that will only be the beginning of things to come later. I'm running out of time. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining us. Now, a measure of how things really stand in Afghanistan also comes from this next video. A television anchor surrounded by armed Taliban fighters in the studio, even as he's reading a statement that talks about how people should not be afraid of the Taliban. Take a look.
إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا صدق الله العظيم. لهر څه نه مخکې تاسو او د تاسو تلویزیون طریقه ټول هیوادوالو ته السلام علیکم ورحمت الله وبرکاته.
جناب قاری صاحب شل کاله مو څه دپاره جګړه وکړه؟
لکه څنګه چې تاسو پوهیږئ چې د دنیا جابر ځواک امریکا متحدینو وطن اشغال کړی و، د وحشت په ځای ایجاد کړی و، نو مجاهد ولس تر هغه په مقابل کې جهاد وکړو، نو په راتګ سره یې پښیمانه کړه، نو ماتې سره یې مخ.
These are just signs of things to come. Finally, last year, an initiative by News 18 and Byju's brought to light many young geniuses who blew our minds away. The same platform is back to help discover more young geniuses. If you know of any of them, you can register them on news18.com/younggenius or download the Byju's app and visit the Young Genius section. Coming to you soon is Byju's Young Genius Season 2, a News 18 initiative.